I've really been enjoying your tunes. I've been sort of revisiting your catalog a little bit, and also enjoying this new compilation that has come out. Although I guess it's coming out officially on vinyl this Friday. Is that correct?
I think so. I'm not sure because we got a test pressing and it wasn't great, so we had to go back for a new test pressing. So it's probably not coming out this Friday.
All right, well that's good. You got some QC going on there, so I'm glad you checked it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people making vinyl, I guess, and it's not always right. It's an imperfect process.
But you've had previous releases pressed on vinyl, is that correct? Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I noticed that you have sort of a bag um, that's going to cover the record. Is that right? Like a paper bag or something, or is that just in the
Yeah,
mock-up?
yeah, it's grab bag. It's a bag.
It's a bag, but it comes with an actual bag.
It comes in a bag, but it's a very nicely fitted bag.
Well,
It's
it
not
looks
in
really
like a loose bag. Like,
it looks like something that 30 years from now, if you got this recording, you really want to get the one where the bag is intact and in really
yeah,
good shape.
you have to take care of the bag. Yeah.
Take care of the bag. So listen, it's been a long time. You guys have been together for about 30 years now, if I'm correct in my math.
Well, I think 30, yeah, over 30 years now, 31 or 32 even maybe.
And I imagine you guys can finish each other's sentences. And, with so much time together on stage and in rehearsals, how do you kind of keep things light? How do you keep things real? How do you keep things funky?
You know, we it's interesting. I think when we first started, we were kind of gathered together by Greyboy, DJ Greyboy, so we kind of grew together as friends. We really weren't friends. I mean, I had known Carl and Chris and Zach, our original drummer. Now our drummer's Aaron Redfield, but originally it was Zach Nager. Um, we kind of didn't really even know each other. So I think, it took us a few years to get to know each other and develop a friendship. And I think we just I think we just kind of built respect for each other and over time generated a friendship. So it's a long relationship where we gave each other a lot of space, I think, to musically and personally, so I think that sort of has allowed us to stay together. I think a lot of bands, it's like a relationship. They're like, we're gonna spend every day together, and we're gonna live together, and we're gonna look the same, and we're gonna be the same people. There's pop bands tend to do that, but we really maintained our individuality over the course of the time that we've been together, and I think that's really helped us be a better band and be better friends.
And I guess all the projects that you all have going on outside too, it keeps things fresh, it keeps things interesting. And what about musically? How do you sort of how do you communicate with each other when I guess the cool thing that it comes with being in a group for a long time is you probably have some way to communicate things to each other without getting all personal and insulting one another. You probably have a way that you're very respectful of each other, but yet you know how to sort of say, hey, let's try this thing that way. How does that come up? Have you guys ever talked
Yeah,
about
I
that?
mean, yeah, we don't really talk about how it happens. I mean, I think that's the testament of that the band stayed together, that we like each other's ideas, and if we don't, we also like each other's input. So I think we respect each other. So it's not really, it's not really something you talk about. But if it's a problem, the band just doesn't stay together. So,
Right.
it's just, um, I mean, we all have other outlets. So it's like if we come to the band with an idea and one person doesn't feel like they can contribute to it or doesn't gel with the group, then it's like, okay, file that under, my other band or my other project or whatever. It's like there's plenty of writers in our band, so there's never a shortage of material. Um, and there's also like we're not getting rich on it either. So it's not like George Harrison has 5 songs and John Lennon and Paul McCartney have, there's too many songs and the record's going to go 20 times platinum. So if he doesn't get his songs on the record, he's not going to
Right.
participate in the business or something. So there's nothing at stake, so it's like we just want the music to be good and everybody to be excited about it. So that's the purpose of it.
Of course, the name of the new, it's really a compilation. As we said, it's called Grab Bag, and it's a mix of sounds.
Mhm.
And these tracks seem to represent the edges of your musical journey. And, how do you see this album kind of reshaping the way people think about you? Was that something that you thought about? Or just maybe you could talk about how these songs maybe are a little different in what people might have come to expect from you over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I think that we're pretty diverse band in terms of what we like to play musically, and I think sometimes we kind of hold ourselves into a thing. I think bands do that, often where they're like, well, this is the lane that we're in. We're in the boogaloo lane, or we're in the funk lane, or we're in this lane or that lane. And I think all the artists that I really have enjoyed in my life have been very like expansive, like let's make a record that doesn't sound like us at all, and challenge people to enjoy it. And so this record, although it's not entirely different than anything we've ever done, it does sort of expand slightly into more fusion, into some heavier stuff, and also into maybe some, you know, even lighter stuff. So it's just, I think it has a little bit, expresses our sense of humor musically a little bit more than our previous records have, and also has a little bit more of a serious side that we haven't gone into, like with Boxes, which is basically a very, it's a very much of a jazz song, where, maybe more of our music has been more blues and funk based, so, it's
Yeah.
just, it's another thing that we've thought, hey, check this out. We made this,
Yeah.
simple.
And as you were going through the archives, was there, did you have one of two moments, which was one was sort of going, oh, this we gotta include, and or maybe there was something that went, wait a minute, this is cool, but we can't. This is too far off the mark.
There was just stuff, we work really fast. We've probably only been in the studio in the totality of our band, probably about 30 days.
Mm,
So
wow.
we haven't spent a lot of time. We made our first record in 1 day. We made our second record in 4 days. We've never spent more than 10 days in a recording studio on any given project. So we don't spend a lot of time doing that, and we also don't spend a lot of time rehearsing. So we're very much of a quick and you know we're not like laboring over anything too much. So simply some things just weren't done where there were too many mistakes. You know what I mean? Like because we're just like going really fast, whatever. So there was some cool stuff, but it was just kind of like, there's too many mistakes on this. We'll just have to move on to the next jam.
Right. Anything jump out at you as being particularly a song that you maybe personally really wanted to include?
I don't know. I'm glad that Suadella made it on, which was a song from our newer record that we were actually we're in the process of making. And in the process, I say that we've started recording sessions on it, and we need to come back and do more recording sessions. But
So that's
but that
something that's sort of a new outtake, newish outtake, I guess, if that's what I'm hearing.
yeah, that's a new. I mean, it was sort of like there's a couple songs from the new record, the Chris's song. Pixie Stick was a tune that those are sort of like Suadella and Pixie Stick were kind of like the outer reaches of the new record, which we've sort of thought about as a different record. And I said, well, those are great songs, but it would be cool to because I feel like they are a little bit out there on the outer side. So let's bring them into this album. And I'm happy that that record came out because a lot of the time, we're playing solo. We're playing a lot of solos. It's more like of a muscular expression, and this
Mm.
one very much like a just like it's more of a chill thing. So I thought that was kind of cool to put out. I'm happy that made it.
The name of the band is an interesting one. I wonder, where did you come up with Greyboy Allstars? Where did that come
Well, I
from?
didn't come up with that name. And honestly, I never thought it was a great name because great. I thought it was confusing, but that's fine. Um, it uh, it came from DJ Greyboy, Andreas Stevens, who put the band originally together um, as a band to celebrate the release of his record, Freestyling,
Right.
which was sort of a hit in the acid jazz scene in the early 90s. And so we got together to play his release party. And he had started a label called Greyboy Records. And so we were the all stars of the label, the Greyboy Allstars, sort of like the, you know, the,
Right.
the
Like
whatever,
Daptone All Stars or something like that.
whatever,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that was what was going on there. And honestly, when he told me that that was going to be the name of the band, I was like, yeah, that's cool. Whatever you want. This isn't going to last for more than a couple of years anyway.
Right. 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 Uh, uh, this sound, and of course, we're talking about a record that sort of showcases a lot of different sides of you guys, aside from just the soul funk jazz
Mhm.
boogaloo thing. But there are a lot of sounds. There are a lot of bands that sort of are getting into this sound. I mean, not really getting into it, but it's happening. And I wonder when you hear stuff like that, what do you think really makes it successful? What do you think are the keys to sort of getting a great funky, the right sort of balance there? Because I listen to a lot of stuff, and so it's funny. Sometimes you put something on and it kind of sounds great at the beginning, but then it kind of loses the thread. It takes a special band to really keep up that momentum and keep up the melody and keep up the excitement. What do you attribute to that after all these years doing this?
Um, I mean, I don't know. Everybody has their own. If music, you react to it as an individual, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's composition, I think it's really easy to make sound alike music, and I think like I think that's kind of people have been doing it for a long time. And, honestly, when we started, we were playing covers, so and out of playing covers, we ended up, you know, steeping ourselves in the genre and then sort of began writing in that genre, sort of the same way the Rolling Stones did, with the blues, you know. Um, Now I feel like we're very much in a culture of, sort of like vintage, fetishism, where people are like examining what gear people made their records with,
Mm,
what instruments they used, how they were miking it, how they were, everything. And it's sort of like this obsession with replicating something. And then, sometimes I just think that composition ideas get lost. And I think that is, there's music is really just about composition. It's not about like how crunchy it is or how old it sounds or whatever. I think that's enticing when you first hear it. It's like, wow, it's like a photo with like a filter on it. And you're like, wow, that's like, is that a Super 8 or is that a Polaroid? And then you're
right,
like, I don't care about the subject,
right,
I want what's the song? What's the song? A lot of these records that I love them because the juxtaposition of rhythms and the composition of the tune, the melody and the where it is in relation to the chords or how someone leaves space in their solo. It's not like I'm digging like, how old and weird and like warbly it sounds.
right, right, right. Yeah, it's true. It's like I like the thought of it being sort of an Instagram filter. It's you're looking at the colors rather than what the picture is.
hmm
Something like that. I don't
So,
know.
and but whatever. I mean, that's how you get into it. Maybe these bands that are doing that, or I don't even know who they are, but if there were to be a mistake made, that would be one of the mistakes. But there are bands that can manage to have like that, the old vibe and write good composition. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
prefer the composition element of it.
And when you were growing up, when you were getting into the sound, falling in love with it, what were some albums or musicians that really inspired you along the way? Like when you're playing now, what do you kind of obviously you're thinking of yourself, but what else are you thinking of? What's inspiring you in your
Yeah.
subconscious?
I mean, I think when I've been playing guitar forever, basically since I was like 4 years old. But, and I started as, as just like a kid going to like blues jams, in San Diego. And there was kind of a big blues scene in San Diego. My brothers used to take me to those. And then I ended up taking like blues lessons from one of the guys for a couple months. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I got into rockabilly music. So I was coming from more of like a blues kind of rockabilly space. And so when I heard like Melvin Sparks or when I heard, Luca Pai for with the meters, or I heard James Brown, or I heard Cheese Martin play and James Brown, or played Boogaloo Joe Jones, there was kind of like a country thing inside it, right? And so it's
Mm,
almost like a rockabilly thing and it's like a blues thing. So I'm coming from that space. So those were the records, and then I heard Grant Green. So it's sort of like a ramp into jazz, from his blues element, ramping into jazz with Grant Green and Kenny Burrell and Pat Martino. Um, and then getting into more of a fusion thing with like excursions to the Quran with Pat Martino and his early record strings, or a George Benson cookbook, Grant Green live at the Lighthouse. I mean, these are records that were, biblical for our band and for me as personally.
yeah. And back to your guitar sound, as we talked about earlier, you guys all do a lot of things outside of the band. You're all very busy with your own projects. Is the sound that you get with this group unique to sort of you, or what would people be surprised to hear you playing on that maybe doesn't quite sound like what's on a Greyboy Allstars
Oh,
album?
oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've played on a lot of records, so I mean, I don't always play, jazz, funky jazz guitar. I mean, I've been dedicated a lot of my life to playing acoustic guitar or open tuning, and
Mm.
I'm a huge fan of Bert Jansch, I'm a huge fan of Neil Young, and love Joni Mitchell, and I very much am into all kinds of music. But yeah, and I made my solo records under Michael Andrews are not really anything like Greyboy All Stars records. So, people can listen to those and that pretty much will, it's another thing. And then obviously I make score music, which is completely on some other thing where I don't even play guitar. So it's, I've been fortunate to be able to develop a lot of different styles of music coming out of my mind.
Yeah. What are you scoring anything now that you can talk about, or anything coming
Yeah, I mean, I
down the
just did
road?
this crazy romantic comedy that just came out this weekend that's popular called You're Cordially Invited, which is a Will Ferrell, Reese Witherspoon movie that just came
Oh,
out.
yes, yeah.
It's kind of everywhere. Um, and I'm working on a new season of Platonic. That's a show that's with Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. That's on Apple. And I worked on the Pharrell Lego movie last year that came out. That's that people liked that. What else? I'm just working on a movie called American Sweatshop that's going to premiere at South by Southwest, and about to get into another movie with Will Ferrell called Judgment Day that's going to start. So yeah, I'm kind of just I'm always working on that stuff, and then we're trying to do Greyboy stuff or trying to finish this record. Um, and I have a couple other like instrumental projects, and I'm always kind of pecking away at more personal recordings too.
Cool. Well, Will Ferrell seems to love your work.
Yeah, Will Ferrell, yeah, he's cool. He's a sweet guy. He's yeah, he's really a talented guy.
And what do you bring when you do those scores? You know, how do you sort of approach that? I'm just curious. You know, you're given how does that kind of work? They kind of give you an idea, they give you some shots, they give you some scenes. Do you kind of do that, or how do you
You
sort of
know what?
approach?
It works all different ways, like it like in the longest term, most involved situation, I would say would be like Walk Hard. Did you see Walk Hard with John Riley?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so on that movie, we were writing songs, people were writing songs, we were collaborating. All those songs that were in the movie were made like even right before, even maybe even in the conception of the script. So
Mm,
that's the earliest we would start. And then make all the songs, and then they shoot the movie, and then as the movie's being edited, I'm getting scenes and or sections of the movie, and then I start to work on the score, which is the underscore, the instrumental underscore. Um, and then it just kind of keeps going, 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 and they start screening, and they put the music in, and then people feedback, and scenes get longer and shorter, and they get reordered, and the music continues to change, and the tone balance, especially in a comedy, the tonal balance is really what makes the movie finally funny or effective in an emotional way. Most of the
right,
movies I work on are sort of emotional comedies, so they're that balance between comedy and heart is like that's the thing we're all working on until the very end. It's like a reduction of it's a balance of everything, really.
right. Did you work with Mike Viola on that
Yeah, yeah,
Walk
yeah,
Hard?
yeah. Mike wrote a bunch of songs with Dan. And yeah, he was all in the mix up the whole time. I mean, I've known Mike for a long time.
He
He's an
was on the
awesome.
show. He was one of my first guests, in fact.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Mike
Yeah,
and I have been friends for probably over 20 years now.
he's an amazing songwriter. I'm a big fan of
Yeah,
his
he's a
music.
he is a really, really great songwriter. Yeah, so that was great. Yeah, those guys would just keep coming in with songs. I think maybe the first one, the first song that he came in with for Walk Hard was um, God, it was the 50s one. Uh, uh, Life Without You maybe was the first song that he wrote
Okay.
for the movie. A life without you is no life at all. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, those guys did so many great songs. And
Yeah.
I got to write with Van Dyke Parks on that movie. That was awesome.
Oh, that's cool. He was also on this program. I also had
Yeah.
a chance to
Oh
interview
yeah,
him
Van
too.
Dyke
Yeah.
is incredible. I made a record with him and Anar George you should listen to called An Invitation that is just unbelievable, so beautiful. He did all the arrangements for it. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Amazingly talented people, of course. So talk
Yeah.
about some of your live shows you guys are playing in support of this, and what's going on stage. What can people expect if they come to see you guys?
Just us having a good time playing the jams, improvising. There if anybody has ever been to a show, it's just, we're just having fun and using our songs as a lifting off place to be in the moment and collaborate rhythmically and otherwise. We're not really I don't think there's nothing incredibly special about it except for if you think it's special, then it's incredibly special. You know what I mean? It's like
That's everything, I guess,
come,
right?
come and see it. I don't know. We are going to have some guests on Friday, but I don't know if this podcast will be out by then.
I know it won't, but you could tell. Well, who will people have missed so they can
Well,
get
we're
ready
going
to
to
go to
put,
the
I
next
think
one?
the Living Sisters are going to show up. And so they were on What Happened to TV. We did a cool tune on our record, which is How Glad I Am. Have you ever heard that?
No, it's a little warbly. I can't really make it out.
Totally on purpose.
It's supposed to sound that way. It's vintage. You're running it. You're running it.
Anyway, it's How Glad I Am. It's distorted and warbly,
It's a
man.
distorted tube mic.
Yeah, probably was a tube mic actually, but yeah, yeah. um, yeah, so they're gonna come and sit in with us because they're from LA and that'll be cool.
Well, cool. Well, I mean, you've congrats on releasing this record. What has there been a feel about, again, I think this is an interesting record for you guys because it is sort of some things that are a little out of the ordinary for you. And what are you thinking about next time? You say you're working on something, but is it more of a return to what people can expect, or are you going in a little bit of a different direction? I kind of touched on it before, but.
It's hard to say. I mean, we have ambitions to make sort of like like I will only say that we're trying to be more ambitious musically.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily like commercially ambitious, excuse me, but it's I don't know. I mean, I think we're trying to marinate in a way that we haven't had a chance to yet on a record. I think a lot of us have given a lot of ourselves to other projects, and I think the consensus is like let's try to give more of ourselves to this band so that we can have something that we can that is more of the potential of all of us collectively, you know? I mean, I think we try to do that every time, but there's just time constraints. And so we're trying to like say, hey, let's like take our time with this one and and try to make something that we all can be like incredibly proud of. Like what if we never made any records again? You know,
Right.
we're getting to the point now where we're not young anymore, and I think, there's a finite amount of time that we're going to have together, and I think it's important for us to really potentialize our collaboration.
Cool. Let's potentialize.
That's it. That's what we're doing.
Michael, I
And anyway, but we have to get in the studio first.
that's it. Well, listen,
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, and it's a very cool album. You guys are really a fun band, and so fun to listen to. And also, if folks haven't watched your videos online, they should. You have such great videos. Watching you guys do that stuff in the studio, I imagine it's all recorded live, but it all looks like they're just playing over these tracks. But I know better. I know you guys are good enough for it
Well,
all
I
to be
think
live. But you look great.
but thank you, and thanks for saying that. And I mean, there's also so many there's so many videos of us on YouTube throughout the years. It's just interesting if people are interested in looking to see the history of the band. It's fun. I mean, it's fun for us occasionally to look just to see like, whoa, that was, I was 30 years old when that happened, and now I'm 57,
Right. A lot of water under the bridge at this point.
pretty intense. I can imagine how like, the guys in the Stones feel when they see like those old videos of them. It's just like, wow, it's a
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a good clip. There's a good video of George Harrison watching themselves on Ed Sullivan or something, I guess. And it was already in the 70s, so he was still
Yeah,
young, but he
yeah.
was just cracking up. He was just watching it and beside himself laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, it's strange. It's like looking at, pictures of yourself. I mean, everybody goes through the old drawer of photos and you're just like, whoa, that was a long time ago.
Right, right, right.
Cool. I mean, I enjoy, there's a couple videos that specifically, there's one I think in Santa Cruz that we put out like last year that's a show right after we made Town Called Earth. And it's pretty good. I have to say, watch it. It's
Watch
good.
it. Watch it, gang. If you can't make it out to a show, watch the video.
Yeah, watch that video. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Cool. Well,
So
Michael, I really thank you for your time today and best of luck. Be well and keep in touch.
likewise.